What are naughty steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the new EP from Redax released on Odio Records, Over the Top, or OTT, whatever floats your dubstep boat. Mark Becker is a producer from Mannheim, Germany, who has been making a bit of headway in the dubstep scene this year, releasing a couple of statement-making tracks, a remix and an original, on the recently formed Odio Records label, getting recognition from huge electronic music platforms such as the Dub Rebellion and Your EDM in the process, not to mention support from fellow German Virtual Riot who played his track Lose Control at Rampage a few months ago. Someone who has apparently experimented with other genres such as future bass and drum and bass in the past, but thus far his dubstep has come across to me at least as one of the more noticeably fresh and seizing forms of BROSTEP that I've heard in a while. A willingness at all times to take his tunes in wilder, wackier directions through the sound, but all well formulated to leave any thoughts of recklessness to one side. I assume with the end goal of showing how ostentatious dubstep can be while still feeling completely together and under control. Aspects of his music that are overtly evident in this debut audio EP. Because for the most part, Over the Top is Becker carrying on in that vein, chaotic dubstep that still has a clear order and structure to it, which may sound like a contradiction, but honestly when you listen to it, you'll understand exactly what I mean. He has a remarkable drive to constantly change things up in his drops, keeping them fresh and diverse with a bounteous collection of sounds. The drop to the opener and title track is rabid with its squelchy exclamations and vocal tears, kicking off the heaviness in this EP with a frightening bang, progressing to a double drop that makes the squelches more intense and rapid fire in their delivery. Those blurted out effects are a really poignant touch too. Regurgitating more and more into the midsection as he looks to extract every last bit of creative brutality that he can from his sound. Following the midsection, in spite of the enthralling stop-start moments to introduce the second drop, initially there's something that strikes me as a little more straightforward and less intense than its predecessor. However, over time we are greeted by this engulfing chomping section, the blurted sounds becoming deeper and more menacing, subsuming you in its horror. In the drop to the second track, Turn It Up, we are thwacked in the ears by this mighty double hit, before some clanky machinery journeys through. Tiny skips and jitters every now and then creating that neat contrast between flow and disruption, before this brilliantly animated laser zap build towards the double drop, which is a striking dynamic between jabs, winding tears and more punchy squelchiness, further evidence of Redax's constant willingness to spice things up. The second drop being of the same ilk, but more bellowing as the interspersing jabs, tears and squelches eschew their way in. Quite startling how it fits so much together. And the third track, Swamp, in collaboration with Misfit Massacre, Nasco and Def Kev, just keeps that darkness and variety right up. A terrorising, staggered, spaced out drop that is one thud of vacuous, spacious sound reverberating throughout your mind after another. The grisly belches in between sequences are great, the tripled pinprick notes firing at you, coming in from all directions. There's so much going on. Before yet another double drop that takes you this way and that with more alien sounds, belches in between and more pinprick notes. And the second main drop to Swamp, the last bit of merciless heaviness in this EP, is arguably the most petrifying it gets. Screams and belches and everything in between, with enough space vacated for every single sound to be appreciated. finishing with a very matter-of-fact double drop consisting of climbing shouty notes and other noises that are all multiplied in this scattergun approach. Basically, there's a truckload of stuff to keep up with. I mean, I had a real hard time noting down everything that happens, all of which has to be recognised because it's there for a reason. These drops are maddening, Becker somewhat elevating his style beyond your average Joe of BROSTEP with some mind-boggling ingenuity here. Something which definitely helps him, because I must say there's an extent at points to which the ideas don't translate into the overall sound seeming whole and fleshed out. Moments where he could have done with a little more refinement in crafting particular sequences, evident to a degree in all three first tracks, are lacking somewhat in the roundedness and full feeling of it, meaning that whilst the ideas themselves are stunning, they're not always realised in the absolute perfect way. Most detectable for me in Turn It Up, where not only does the drop not sound quite as thick and plump, but some of the notes seem a little bit aimless in their direction. Undoubtedly forceful, but bereft of a sharpness to really root me in my seat, something that is present in parts in both the title track and Swamp 2. It could in fact be down to the percussion, because all the synths clearly are there, glaringly diverse and colourful, which I did notice in his Kill Rex remix for the Issue 1 remix compilation. Something about his kicks being a bit too contained and not providing enough of a thump, evident in places here too. But you know, this could just be my ears. Everything about these drops ticks the boxes in terms of something I would love, but there's something that just isn't there to take it over that edge. Also something that will just improve and develop for him over time if it's signalled now, no matter how good it is, because the foundation is clear. Which I feel I can say because it's also outside of the drops that plenty of other flashes of brilliance lie, to show just how mature his production is, ensuring that these songs can be realised not merely as straight up bangers, but stories with moments of reflection where everything is toned down a bit. The introductions and midsections are what make this EP so picturesque at points, starting with the glistening opening notes that give the image of shimmering water. Ooh, that's pretty, baby. Re-engaging this idea in the midsection as similar notes quiver towards the surface. Bit of a Temanite feel about it as it floats towards the second drop. The dreaminess of Turn It Up lies in its own midsection, with some alluring bedtime story twinkles to follow the curious intrigue of the opening few seconds. Musicality in the four-way collaboration Swamp is less apparent, but there are some pleasant, underwater, oozy moments in both the introduction and the midsection. This aspect is evidence of him going that extra mile with his production. As I implied, these songs could have relied solely on the drops, the heaviness that they possess, but they've all got an arc and character outside of the dubstep, which you have to laud him for. Bereft of massive, cinematic ending sequences, but I think the emphatic finales work well in terms of reminding us of the full-blooded remorselessness of the dubstep, giving it that statement-making gleam, kind of what this EP deserves. Now, you may have noticed that I've left out the fourth track, Taking Over You, featuring Loof, up until this point, and there's a reason for that. Because it's so radically different to everything that precedes it that I had to really check it was from the same EP when I was listening to it for the first time. Must say I'm not too big on this track in and of itself, but I think it works well as a chance to reflect on everything that's come before. Drums are pretty well suited for the most part. Nice to see his sound through another medium. The kind of chilled song that Virtual Riot may put at the end of an EP. Which is funny because there is a lot to suggest across these four tracks that he is learning from Mr. Brunn. I mean, they are both from Mannheim too. There's summit in the water, I'm telling you. By no means the worst comparison to make. Something again I feel okay with saying because this is a very solid first EP from Redax. In recognition of its title, does it ever go over the top? The dubstep is certainly outlandish and frantic, but still so well assembled and formulated. I've said all of this and more already. There is definitely part of me that thinks, considering how good the ideas are, it could be exceptional, but it isn't quite. some refinement was needed to flesh out all of the available flavours, something which I would say is what everyone loves about Virtual Riot. But the intentions of all the ideas on show are spot on, pretty forward-thinking stuff in the combinations of particular sounds throughout. Got such a bright future ahead of him. There's a dynamism and adventure to this music that goes far beyond your standard BROSTEP number, as I mentioned earlier. Playing in London at the Odio Records night next month, so I'm very excited to see him play and hopefully get a few words from him on his production process. Now, in terms of a favourite from Over the Top, I think I'm gonna have to go with the opener and title track. For me, it has the most variation dubstep-wise, with musicality in tow as well, just the most complete representation of this EP's biggest selling points. And in terms of recommendations, if you enjoyed this EP, then I'm not sure there's anyone that sounds quite like this, but if you're looking for some more tricksy dubstep madness, then I would start with Too Vain and Fed Up. And so that is that for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of the debut Odio Records EP from Redax. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on Over the Top. What did you guys make of it? Do you have a favourite track of the four? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting that notification bell along the way so you can be notified whenever I upload to the Nawtystep channel. Next to my head, there should be some other dubstep reviews from the channel, including a couple audio ones from the past as well, so if you enjoyed this one, then be sure to check those out too. And don't forget, as always, to like and follow Nawtystep across all social media if you haven't already, with everything linked, including those recommendations, in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see you all in the next one. Peace out.